joining for the webinar this morning. So as Kat was saying, this is an exciting new benefit that now comes with your accreditation. So to get started, I'm going to talk a little bit about how you can build a 5-star reputation using this benefit. First off, why are online reviews important to businesses, right? I think instinctively, if you've joined this webinar, you know that online reviews have become increasingly important. I've used Bright Local's local consumer survey. So this is their most recent version from 2026. And as you can see here, reviews are not going away, right? So this shows that 97% of consumers read online reviews. And in fact, 93% of consumers that were surveyed have made a purchase after reading a positive review. And so that gives you an idea of the type of impact reviews can have on your business. Okay. Not only that, but consumers also care when reviews are written. A few years ago, it might have been sufficient to have a lot of good reviews with a good rating. But nowadays, I
Hey,
think
Jen.
because consumers do expect to see good reviews for a business, they're also starting to pay attention to when those reviews were written. And so nearly 3/4 of consumers really pay attention or only care about reviews that are written within the past 3 months, right? And if you think about your behavior as a consumer, and in fact, as I go through this presentation, I know a lot of you either own businesses or work for a business or are affiliated with a business, but you all are also consumers as well. And so as I go through this presentation, you can think about your behavior as a consumer and see if you can relate. And so I think for a lot of hello?
Sorry, Moira.
Oh, can you guys hear me okay? Okay,
Okay.
perfect. And so for a lot of us, I think when we start to do research on a business, we gravitate towards reviews that were recently written because we understand that a lot can change within a business, right? It could change ownership. They can start to offer different products, different services, change their pricing, change their policy. And so I think it makes sense intuitively that customers pay attention to the recent reviews. But what that means for you is that trying to get good reviews is basically a never-ending process. So you can't just, focus on reviews this month and say, okay, I'm going to get 30 reviews this month and then stop caring about reviews because again, consumers are going to keep looking for reviews that were recently written about your business. Okay. And I think it goes without saying that star rating is incredibly important. But just how important, I think, even for somebody who's been doing this for quite a bit of time. And so I've been working with reviews for 14 years now. And it's surprising to me still just how stricter customers are getting. And so if you look at this stat, which again, this is from Bright Local's local consumer survey of this year, nearly a third of customers will only consider businesses with greater than a 4.5-star rating. So if you really think about that, I mean, that is a big chunk of your potential customers. And again, if you think about your behavior as a consumer, would you willingly use a business if you didn't know anything else about them, that had less than a 4-star rating? Would you use a business with less than a 4.5-star rating? And so I think this does, when we think about our own behavior, it does make sense. But I do think that it's interesting that even now, customers are, starting to raise their standards when it comes to which businesses they'll even consider. And in addition to that, nearly half of customers won't use a business with fewer than 20 reviews. And so it's not enough that you have a great star rating. You also have to have a lot of reviews to kind of support that. And I think, again, for me, if I see a business with a perfect 5-star rating, but they only have 2 reviews, I might end up using a business with a slightly lower rating, let's say like a 4.7 or a 4.8, but with 50 reviews. And so I think, again, this goes to show you that really being deliberate about your online reputation is something that is never going to go away because you have to continue to get good reviews. They have to be great reviews, and they have to be recent. Now, something that has become very important, I think, in the last few years is businesses responding to their reviews. As when I first started working in this industry, it was very rare that a business would respond to a review. And if they did, it was usually a negative review, right? To try and tell their side of the story. But as you can see here, 89% of customers expect businesses to respond to the reviews. And that means all your reviews, right? So not just the negative ones, but the positive ones and even the neutral ones. And in addition to that, half of customers are actually unlikely to use a business that uses generic responses. So I know a lot of businesses are starting to use AI, especially as it relates to their online reputation. And I do think that AI can absolutely be a helpful tool. But I do also, I kind of agree that when you look at a business and the way they're responding to customers, if it's a very generic, okay, thank you for your feedback, we appreciate it, it's not going to have the same impact. It's almost as if you might as well not have responded to reviews if you can't customize your response a little bit to the review that you received. And so that's just to keep in mind. And again, I think it really drives the point home that caring and managing your reviews does take a little bit more effort, especially more than it used to. Okay, any questions or comments, feedback on any of those stats that I just presented? Great. Well, the good news is, having said all of that, so we know that customers are reading reviews. They don't want businesses with less than a 4.5 star rating. They want at least 20 reviews. They want you to be responding to these reviews. The good news is customers are absolutely open to writing a review for a business. And this is really where BBB Plus comes in, which is the brand new benefit that's now available to you as an accredited business with BBB of Upstate New York. So, and essentially what it is, it's an app specifically provided to accredited businesses to help you get these reviews. Now, I do see that there is a question question from Lisa, which is a great question. Does it matter where the reviews are? Google, BBB, etc. We do need to make it easy for customers to leave one. That's a great question, Lisa. And I will say, so there's a long answer to that. Essentially, you want to get reviews on review sites that are impactful for your industry. So yes, that's going to be BBB, that's going to be Google, because those are more generic review sites that's not industry specific. You're also going to want to look at if you're in a specific industry with review sites specific to that industry, maybe those review sites. One thing I recommend is maybe looking at competitors in your geographic area and see where they have their reviews. That's usually a good sign of where you can focus your energy. And we can talk more about that too in terms of where it would be a good idea to have reviews for your business. And that's also something that we help with when we are helping you set up this app. Now, as far as making it easy for customers to leave a review, this is exactly where this app comes in. So the app that's now available to you as a benefit of your accreditation makes it super easy for your customers to leave a review. And so what we've tried to do is try to remove as much friction as possible, because to your point, yes, the easier it is to leave a review, the better for the customer and the more likely they are going to leave a review. So that's a great question. And one thing I would like to point out is this app does let you collect reviews for multiple review sites for your business. So you don't have to choose just one review site. Okay. All right. So here's a summary of what you can do with BBB Plus. As I was saying, you can request customer reviews for review sites such as BBB, Google, Facebook, Yelp, some other industry-specific sites. So if you're, in the contractor industry, you can leave a review on Angie, or sorry, collect reviews on Angie, House, Home Advisor. There's medical specific sites. There's sites that are specific to car dealerships. And so basically the possibilities are endless, right? And with this app, not only can you request customer reviews for those sites and get them posted, but you can manage, respond, and monitor your reviews all in one place. So you can basically customize the messages that you send out to your customers requesting a review. You could choose the review sites that they have an option to leave your review on. And then once you get those reviews, you have the opportunity to manage the reviews as they come in and respond to the reviews as well. Okay, so first things first, you download the app, right? I think when most people hear of a customer reviews app, they think of the customer having to download the app. But in this case, the customer does not have to download anything. So you, the business, whoever's associated with the business, is going to be the one that downloads the app. So it's 100% a business-facing app. In fact, the customer doesn't even have to know that there is an app involved. And you can download this app on different types of mobile devices. So whether you have an iPhone or an Android, and you can also download it onto your computers if you'd rather download it on a computer versus a mobile device. And now I do see a review, a question from Joanna, which is a great question, and I'm actually going to address it a little bit later on. But her question is, so would one review go across multiple platforms? And I'll get to that in just a couple of slides here, where I'll basically walk you through the process of what using the app looks like. Okay, and I think a question from Monte, will they have to register an account with certain review platforms before they leave a review? So I will actually address both of those questions at the same time once we get to that part of the process. And so again, once you download the app, this is what the app looks like. Okay, as you can see, there's going to be a field here that's going to have your company name at the top, and then a space to write your customer name. And then you can choose if you would like to leave a text, or sorry, send a text or an email to your customer to request the review. And so if you're sending a text, there's going to be a space for them to, or for you to type in their cell phone number. If you're sending an email, you'll be able to type their email address. Okay, and as I was saying, you can also use the app on the computer as well. So it's going to have the same fields where you can choose between sending a text or an email, and then putting in your customer's name and their either mobile number or email address. Okay, and so this is what that looks like. So if this is, you're sending a text, you can see here, Jane is going to be the customer's name, put in their phone number and hit send. So that's how easy it is to request a review. Once you open up the app, all you have to do is put in your customer's name and either their phone number or email address. And in fact, if you wanted to, you could send both a text and an email to request a review. Okay. And then what happens next is the customer is going to receive that text message or that email as soon as you hit send. And so if you can see here, it's going to be personalized with the name that you typed in. So in this case, this is my name, Moira. Thanks for choosing. And then it's going to have your company name. And then please leave us a review. And then all they have to do is click that link. So up until this point, the process has maybe taken 30 seconds. You've typed in the customer's name and their contact information and hit send, and they've received this message. So in this case, they'll receive this message, text message instantly, and all they have to do is click that link in order to be able to leave your review. Now, this is, I think this is where I can address both of the questions that came up, and I will repeat the questions so everybody remembers them. But once they click the link in that text message, they can choose where to leave your review. And so the review sites that are going to be presented as options is going to be something that will help you set up. So you choose which review sites are going to be presented to your customer. Now, the question that I had, which was about one review going across multiple platforms, and that's from Joanna. And the answer is no. And so, and there's a couple of reasons for that. So number one, your customer is going to get to choose where to leave that review. They're going to have to write that review. Once that review is written, Because, and this answers Monty's question, will they have to register an account with certain review platforms before they leave a review? Some review sites do require an account before a customer can leave a review. So for instance, Google does. Now, almost everybody has a Google account already, and most likely they're already logged in, especially if they use Gmail as their email address. And so in that case, when they click that Google link, it's going to, they're going to be logged in already. So they're not going to have to log in or create an account if they already have one. However, if the review site does require an account to be created before they can leave a review and the customer doesn't currently have one, they will have to create one and it will prompt them to do so. So when they click that link, it's going to prompt them to create that account. Now, to go back to Joanna's question, that's part of the reason why we can't take one review and post it on multiple platforms, because a lot of these platforms require some sort of account associated with the review. And so it's not going to automatically log them into the different accounts because the platforms don't actually talk to each other, right? So it's not going to take that one review and post it to multiple sites. There's not really a way to do that since the review sites aren't, they don't work with each other that way. And it requires, security basically to be able to take one review and post it on other sites, right? And that's reason number one. The second reason is that's not really something that you would want to do as a business because, especially nowadays, it can either go against the terms and conditions of the different review sites. So they don't like automating reviews. They're also always on the lookout for any kind of bot or spam activity, especially with AI as prevalent as it is. If you're basically caught trying to automate your reviews or trying to take one review and have it posted to multiple sites, your account's going to get flagged by those review sites. And then also from the consumer point of view, you don't want to have the same reviews on multiple review sites. So think about if you're doing research on a business and you start to read their reviews and you see the same reviews over and over on multiple sites. All of a sudden, you doubt the authenticity of that review because it doesn't look like it was written, honestly, right? It looks like the business did something to have one review go to multiple sites. And so all of a sudden the reviews for the business look untrustworthy. And so even if it was technologically possible to have one review go to multiple sites, it's not really something that you'd want to do as a business, especially with customers being a lot more savvy now and being more apprehensive about content they see online on whether or not it's real or bot generated or written by AI. And so I know that's a longer question to that, but I did want to address it because I do think that's actually very important. Right now, I would like to say that if you're using this app to try and get a BBB review, your customer does not have to create an account. So that's what's nice about the BBB review is BBB does make sure that none of the reviews are anonymous, but they just require the customer's contact information. So using the app, BBB won't require your customer to create a consumer account. Okay. All right. And now I do have a question from Heather where it says, where can I find the device key on my profile? That's a great question. You should be able to go into your business login, and there's a section there for the review solution that's going to have your device key. However, I'm happy to reach out after the webinar and have one of my team members make sure that you have the device key for your business. Okay, and one more question from Lisa. So is it possible to add our own website's review page on the app as well? Yes. So it is possible. Again, you can customize which review sites you add to the app. And if you have a specific page on your website where you're collecting reviews from your customers, that can be one of the options for your customers when you send out the review request. It's a great question. Okay, any other questions? So again, up until this point, think about how few steps it took to get here, right? For you, you just had to put in your customer's name and contact information. Your customer just had to click the link in the message they received, and then they get directly to where they can leave you a review, and they choose from the sites that you've chosen. Okay. And I do have another request for a device key. So I think at the end of the webinar, one of the screens is going to have the support information for my company. everybody who wants a device key, you can reach out to that email address and I'll make sure that one of my team members gets the device key for your business so that you can get started on the app. And again, if you're able to log into your business login, you should also be able to get your device key from there. Okay. Now, I will like to say that, while Google definitely dominates in terms of the volume of reviews that are collected on Google business profiles, consumers still trust BBB reviews the most. And so that's something to keep in mind. And I think what's nice about that too is because businesses typically don't have a lot of BBB reviews, so you don't need a lot of BBB reviews to impact your star rating, right? I think customers get accustomed to seeing lots of Google reviews, sometimes even hundreds, but for a BBB review, you might not need hundreds of reviews, right? If you can get even 5 to start, then it already has a huge influence on your online reputation. Okay, let me see if any questions before we move on. And so we talked about the tool itself, right? And how the tool makes it easy to get a review. But sometimes having the tool is not enough. And I know having spoken to a lot of businesses, it's how they ask for a review that they really struggle with, right? So even if they have the tool, it's hard for them to still approach a customer or kind of initiate that conversation. And so here are just some tips and tricks that I have compiled from working with businesses for over a decade in helping them get great reviews online. The first thing is, whenever possible, you want to ask for the review at the point of service, or at the very least, at the point where you're having some sort of interaction with the customer. Okay, I think we can all agree that your customers are going to be the happiest right when they receive your product or service. And again, think about your own behavior as a customer. If you had a great lunch, uh, today, you're thinking about it immediately after lunch, maybe this evening, 2 weeks from now, you're probably not thinking about it as much. And so, in general, I think when you get great service or you get a great product, you're the happiest right at that point. And then the further away you get from that experience, the less impactful the experience is, right? And so I think the further away from the market interaction, the less likely your customer is to submit a review online. So you want to get as close as possible to the point of service, or if that's not possible, at least to the point where you're having some sort of interaction with them. Maybe you're calling them on the phone as a follow-up, to the service that you provided, or you're following up on a product that they purchased to make sure it's still performing well. And that would be a good time also to ask for that review. Now, the middle column, this is just an example of how you can ask for a review at the point of service. You could absolutely adopt this to however you deal with your customers. I think, especially if you're some sort of contractor, this is fairly easy to work into your process. And the way it looks is something like this. So let's say that you have just cleaned somebody's carpets, right, at their house. Finished up, you looked at everything, everything looks great. This is where you take out the app and you let them know that customer reviews have become very important to your business. And would they mind leaving you a review? Now, a couple of things happen. Number one, you can ask them if they have their cell phone on them, so you're able to send them a text. Number two, what's nice is because you're face-to-face, when you take out the app, put in their name and cell phone number and hit send, you can hear or figure out when they received that text. So you can even confirm that they've received it. Okay, and in a lot of ways too, because they know that you know that they've gotten it, there's kind of some implied obligation there, right? And so you can even verify that they got the text message and that they're able to click on the link. Okay, this is the part I think that's very important. And once you've confirmed that they've received that review request and that they're able to click the link, you walk away. Number one, it makes it a lot less awkward for your customer. So they feel like they can review you freely because you're not standing there staring at them. And it's also not awkward for you. So you're not watching your customer leave you a review. However, when you walk away, this is the perfect opportunity to double check your work. And so I think this is a good, time to say, hey, I want to make sure everything looks good one last time while you're, leaving the review, or while you want to leave me a review, I'm going to go ahead and double check everything. And then you walk away for a few minutes And ideally, when you get back to your customer, they've already written their review. And so before you even leave the job site, the review has already been submitted. And again, you can adapt this to how you want, depending on the type of interactions you have with your customers. But I do think this is a process that a lot of the businesses I've worked with have perfected, and it's very effective for them. Okay. Um, but in general, I think that you just make asking for reviews a part of your process as a business. It makes it very, very easy for you to hold your team members accountable, and it makes it easy for them because they don't have to think about it. So if they know at a certain point in the customer interaction, they use the app to request a review, it makes it simple for them. It makes it simple for you, makes it simple for them. It becomes, part of their habits, just no different from signing in, clocking out. Maybe you have timesheet policies, sales policies. If it just gets incorporated as something that they're already used to doing, then not only does it make it easy for them, but it also makes it easier for you to hold them accountable. Okay. I do see a few questions come in. I'll address them, I think, at the end of this particular section. Okay. Now, one thing I do want to point out is you never want to offer money discounts or gifts to your customers in exchange for a review. So that's going to go against, the Federal Trade Commission doesn't really like that. They don't like anything that is going to kind of wear away at that trust in the marketplace for both consumers and businesses. So if consumers think that businesses only have good reviews because they're bribing customers for them, then all of a sudden reviews don't mean anything anymore, right? So the FTC does not like that. And in some significant or some instances, you'll see that there have been actually businesses that have been fined, and they're trying to come up with the rule to be able to fine businesses that are very brazen about bribing their customers for reviews. It's also against Better Business Bureau policies. So, and it's going to be against the policy of a lot of other review sites that you're going to want reviews on. I will say an exception is if you're offering a free product or service in exchange for honest feedback, but in those instances, the customer receiving the free product or service has to explicitly state that in the review. And you'll see that it's pretty common in kind of health and wellness spaces. A lot of places that do like skincare or makeup or anything like that, you'll see them say that they received the product for free in exchange for their honest feedback. But in general, as a rule, you never want to do that. Now, I know you can probably think of a business that does that, but that doesn't mean that they're supposed to be doing it or that you should be doing it. And in fact, if you're caught doing it, best case scenario, the review is deleted, right? The worst case scenario is you'll get a warning on your profile, which Yelp does. It'll let customers know that you've been caught exchanging something for reviews. So it basically casts doubt on all the reviews that you've ever gotten. And in extreme cases, you'll be banned from certain review sites. So, okay. Some other, best practices I think that I've seen be really successful in the businesses we've worked with. I think it's important to give almost everybody, the ability to request reviews, especially anybody who has any kind of interaction with the public, right? You never know what part or what step of that process gets somebody to leave a review, or what step of that process makes a lasting impression on your customer. It could be that the person picking up the phone was so friendly that it completely changed their experience and made it so much better. And so you just want to give that opportunity every step of the way to request those reviews. And then another thing is you put one person or department in charge of reviews. And this is really important because I've worked with businesses where they start to use the app and they start to get reviews, but it's not clear who's supposed to be managing them, right? So you get reviews and nobody knows who's supposed to respond to them, who's supposed to address issues that have come up in the reviews, who's monitoring the review requests as they come in. So I think it's important to make it one person or one department's responsibility, right? So then everybody knows, okay, if there's a review question, or if there's an issue with a review or something review related, it's this person that handles it. Okay. 3 and 4 kind of go together. So again, it's hard to hold your employees accountable if you haven't explicitly made reviews part of your process. But if you have, then it's easy to hold them accountable and it's also easy to reward them. And so the nice part about this app is it comes with a dashboard, as I mentioned, where you can see all the review requests that everybody is sending out who's associated with the company. And you can see the reviews as they come in. And that is a great opportunity to incentivize the employees that are doing what they're supposed to do. Again, you don't want to incentivize the customers, but there's nothing that says you can't reward your team. And so a lot of times, we'll get a business where everybody's requesting reviews like they're supposed to, and everyone has about the same number of review requests per week. But there's one or two employees that consistently get more reviews than everybody else. And so that gives you an insight into those people's performance that maybe you may not have had, right? So a lot of times reviews don't mention an employee's name, or it's against policy to directly mention an employee's name. So even if the review did mention it, you won't see it. And this way, because the app tracks all of that, you can see that, for example, Sally actually is getting way more 5-star reviews than anyone else in your company. Okay. And then, of course, have an effective follow-up strategy. So this is where having the one person or department in charge of reviews really comes into play, because you get an opportunity, you have somebody that either follows up on the review requests that went unanswered or on the reviews that you do get. Because again, we talked about how important reviews are now, or responding to reviews are now. Okay. And we did get a few questions. So let me see. There's one from Bill that says, with Google reviews, the more you have, and specifically the more 5-star reviews you have, the higher your business ranks when clients are doing searches. That said, what is the advantage to using BBB reviews? That's a great question. So a couple of things. Number one, a few slides back at the beginning of the presentation, I talked about how customers still trust BBB reviews the most. So all things being equal, if they have a BBB review and a Google review, they're going to trust that BBB review more. So that's number one. Number two, similar to how Google reviews can alter or can boost your SEO rankings, because BBB as a website has a lot of credibility with Google, your BBB profile is going to rank very, very highly on your search results or any search results for the business. And so number one, when a customer clicks on that, that's going to set you apart from other accredited businesses in your area, because you're going to have the star rating and the number of reviews. And I'm actually also going to discuss how, in general, having great reviews on sites like BBB that search engines tend to prioritize and give a lot of ranking weight to can also bolster traffic to your website. And so again, because search engines like Google still very much rank BBB profiles very highly, if that ends up ranking high on your search results and your customers see, or your potential customers see that, they'll see those reviews, and that'll also direct traffic to your website if you have your website link set up on your BBB profile. So that's a great question. Steve, can requests for reviews be done through a batch? So the short answer is yes, but not at the outset. So there's a couple of things that we would need to do to the app on the back end to be able to let you request reviews through a batch. And the short answer why we do that is because if TCPA doesn't allow or has very, very strict guidelines regarding automated messages or any kind of automated phone activity to your customers. And so for anybody to have the ability to request reviews in batch, our team just has to ensure that you have the processes in place to be getting the explicit permission to be able to send those reviews. Because once you're starting to send a review request in batch, it falls into the automated category. And so basically the laws governing that activity changes. But if that's something, again, if that's something that your business is interested in, you can contact us, and then my team will make sure that you are set up to do that. Okay. And then a comment from Lisa that kind of reiterates why BBB reviews are important. I've also had a couple of customers who've seen our Google review and then went to BBB to see what's there. Exactly. If you have a BBB profile and it's ranking highly, having reviews on there just kind of reinforces what what is already out there about your business. So it's never a bad thing, again, to have more great reviews, and especially for something like the BBB that consumers trust, um, you can always benefit from that. Any other questions? Great. So of course, now that you have the tool to get the reviews, and we talked about, best practices to asking for those reviews, the next step is to respond to the reviews that you're actually receiving. And quick do's and don'ts. You might think when glancing at this list that this common sense, but I think also if you've gotten the opportunity to read some responses to reviews from other businesses, you might come to the conclusion that maybe it's not so obvious, right? What are the rules when you're responding to reviews? And so, again, and this is by no means an exhaustive list, right? So, number one, respond to all your reviews. I think a lot of businesses, they just tend to respond to their negative reviews. Make sure you're responding to your positive reviews and also your neutral reviews. So, like your 3-star reviews, I feel are most difficult to respond to, and make sure you're addressing those as well. Okay. Number two, do be courteous and polite. So again, even when responding to an unflattering review of your business, it should go without saying, but you'll never know. Keep in mind that the person who wrote that review is not the only person reading your response. So any response you put out there is seen by anybody on the internet. So number one, just keep that in mind. Also, this is your opportunity to bring back that disgruntled customer, especially if you didn't realize they were upset until you saw their review. And so by being courteous and polite, this is your opportunity to win them back. And I have seen that. I'm sure you guys have seen that as well, where maybe a customer originally wrote a 1 or 2-star review on a business, and based on how their business responded, they edit their review back to a 5 stars, and they'll even say, hey, I had this experience and they made it right, and so 5 stars for them, because of how they responded. And in a lot of ways, responding effectively to a negative review can be more effective than just a generic 5-star review on your business. Okay. Another thing that I think people don't think about is you want to apologize, right? You can apologize without admitting fault necessarily, but it's always good to acknowledge that your customer was frustrated, especially if they had a negative experience, and to reiterate that the experience they had is not the standard that you've set for your company. On the flip side, don't get emotional or defensive. Again, easier said than done. And I get that. Remember that everyone is seeing your response. And the chance that there's just no way you're going to be able to respond to this review without being defensive, I recommend just writing out what you actually want to say on a piece of paper, get it all down on the piece of paper, and then throw it away. So that's something that I've used a couple of times, in my correspondence. Another thing too is, I always recommend trying to respond to reviews sooner rather than later. However, if responding quicker is going to have you more defensive than not, it's better to wait a couple of days to respond than responding right away and your response is emotional. Okay. Another thing is don't go into too much detail or make it personal. In fact, a lot of industries, they have strict guidelines and laws around what you're able to reveal about your customers. So financial services industry is one, medical industry is another one. But in general, it looks unprofessional to get too personal, and you don't want to end up debating the issue online anyway. So always offer to take it off the platform with a phone call or an email. Another thing too is don't speculate. If the customer is not clear on the reason for their frustration, you always want to communicate off the review platform. You don't want to speculate as to why a certain customer was upset. Any questions or comments on that? Lisa, thank you, that you like the idea of writing it out first and throwing it away. It's actually very effective. So I recommend next time, if you feel like you can't refrain from writing something, write it down somewhere, but don't post it online. Okay. And then we have another question from Bill. So it sounds like if you're going to do both Google and BBB reviews, it might make sense to alternate platforms. Thoughts? Well, so that's the nice part about this app is you can have both BBB and Google as the option for your customers. And you'll be surprised at how naturally customers kind of sort themselves into the two review sites. So you might think everyone's going to want to leave a BB review or a Google review, but that's actually not true. And also this platform, BBB is considered the default backup site. So if somebody starts to leave you a review and then they change their mind, or they don't want to, sign into their Google account or they don't want to create an account and they hit back or cancel, it automatically redirects them to your BBB profile because again, collecting reviews, BBB reviews through the app doesn't require that the customer create a BBB or create an account on BBB. And so, but again, what's nice is you don't actually have to alternate between the two. You can have both review sites as an option for your customers to choose and then evaluate, okay, well, I'm getting way more Google reviews than BBB or vice versa. And then that's when you can kind of change on which review sites you want to give your customers the option to leave your review on. Okay. All right. So leveraging reviews. Once you start to get great reviews online, you can, again, there's a lot of other ways that it impacts you more than just a customer sees a review and now they want to use you as a business, right? And this, we've touched on this topic a couple of times. So this is talks about how SEO can get bolstered by reviews. Okay. The majority of trackable website traffic still comes from organic search. And organic search just means that it's not paid for, right? So you guys still see like online ads and things like that. And I'm not saying that as a business, if you've invested in that or that's part of your digital marketing strategy, that you should stop. However, the majority of website traffic still comes from search results that aren't paid for. Okay. And as we were talking about earlier, third-party reviews and the review sites that they're on carry a lot of ranking factor weight. So search engines love review sites and third-party reviews because they have, number one, they're fresh content, they're authentic, they are on sites that have a lot of credibility. So in this instance, BBB, Yelp has a lot of credibility with search engines, things like that. And so search engines love third-party reviews. And so what's nice about that, if you put that together, is people are still looking at non-paid for search results. The reviews that you get online show up very highly in search results for your business or for terms related to your business. And so once they get to those review sites, any kind of referral traffic where customers looking at your review site and then they click on your website, it's going to bolster your SEO. And the best part is you didn't pay for any of that, right? So you're not paying for the ads, you're not paying to be seen on those third-party review sites. And because this app is free for accredited businesses, you're not paying for the platform to help you get reviews. So all of that is free, but now you've significantly been able to boost traffic to your website because you have great reviews online. So that's another way that you can really bolster your SEO just by getting great reviews online. And of course, you can use reviews anywhere, not just on the review sites that that they've been left on. So you can repurpose them on your website and you can use the reviews you get on social media. Depending on the social media site, you can actually reshare your reviews on your social media profiles. You can print out the reviews on different collateral that you have. And somebody mentioned, collecting testimonials directly on your website. You can absolutely do that and then repurpose those testimonials in your marketing. And so all of these are ways that you can use feedback that's been given to you in other types of marketing. Now, of course, the caveat is just make sure that you have the permission to use the reviews, and certain review sites have different rules governing if you can use reviews on that site on other platforms. Okay, so how do you actually measure the ROI from great reviews? Right. And I tell everybody, it's never too late to start. And I think today, sometime after this webinar, evaluate where your business is, right? I call that your current review snapshot. So evaluate the baseline. So today, what do you look like online? What star rating do you have? How many reviews do you have on each site? Write down the date. Take a screenshot if you have to. In fact, I recommend taking a screenshot so you can see exactly what your search results look like and date it. Okay. And that's how you know where you start out. Okay. Google Search Console is another great tool where, and this is something that the admin of your website, whoever manages your website, probably has access to. And what it does is it shows you basically how people are getting to your website. And this is a great way to track, hey, has traffic from third-party review sites increased on the way to my website? And that'll give you, of course, an indication of, hey, the great reviews that I'm getting on these review sites are causing more people to go to my website. Another thing too that Google Search Console does is it shows you, how people are getting to your site, like what they're searching in the search engine. So that'll also give you some insight into that. Another thing to help measure is your Google Business Profile metrics. So if you have access to, if you can log in and you're the administrator for your Google Business Profile, it'll show you how many clicks you have, right? And so you can track a trend on, are you getting more clicks on your profile? The more reviews that you get, the higher your review rating gets. And it also shows you if people are clicking on your phone number more or the directions to your shop more. So again, you can measure that against how your reviews are looking if there's increased activity on your Google Business Profile. And then you can always have a question to your customers. How did you hear about us? It's very common. You'd be surprised at how many customers that you get that say, hey, I decided to go with you because you had great reviews online. On the flip side, you never hear, because people will never tell you, that they chose not to go with your business because they didn't like your reviews online. And I think that's where people really underestimate the impact that negative reviews or not having any good reviews online can have on their business. Because a customer is not going to call a business and say, hey, I would have actually gone with you, ended up going with a competitor because they had better reviews than you. So that's just something to keep in mind. Okay. Right. So we have a question from Joanna. Is there a typical conversion rate or benchmark for how many completed jobs should lead to reviews? That is a great question. Um, rule of thumb, I say 25% is a great conversion. However, it's going to depend on your particular customer base, and what types of jobs you're doing, right? So some services that you provide are going to be long tail, if you're building a house for somebody, for instance, versus there's businesses that do a lot more high volume. They see X amount of customers per day, and those are going to tend to have lower conversion rates. However, because they do such high volume, it doesn't matter. So again, a rule of thumb, I always say aim for 25%. That is going to depend a lot on the type of business you have, the type of volume you do as a business, what kind of customers you're having. And so if your customers tend to skew older, that's going to affect your conversion rates versus if you have a younger customer base, for instance. It's a good question. Okay, so the bottom line is reviews make you a better business, right? If you're getting negative reviews, look for the pattern. You can even use a lot of review site platforms have AI tools kind of built in that analyze the reviews and kind of tell you the common feedback that people are giving. But this kind of, again, if you look at if all your negative reviews are saying the same thing, hey, I really hate this particular policy, maybe you should reevaluate that policy, or you should reevaluate how you're presenting it to your customers, as an example. Of course, the flip side of that is positive feedback is going to reinforce what you do well. I've had a business where they didn't realize, they were evaluating kind of the services that they offered, and they realized that a service they were thinking about no longer offering was the one that everybody was mentioning in their positive reviews. And this was a business that hadn't really looked at their reviews like that before. So again, positive feedback is going to reinforce what you do well. We talked about also using the dashboard for the app to see which of your employees are going above and beyond, or being able to track their performance. Basically, another way to track your employees' performance by the type of reviews they're getting and if they're getting a lot of reviews. Okay. And then neutral reviews. So these are the 3-star reviews. They're not very common. However, when you do get them, they can be frustrating because you don't really know how to address them. However, they actually show you the easiest areas to improve. So this is the low-hanging fruit. It's a lot easier to go from a 3-star to a 5-star in a customer's mind than from a 1-star to a 5-star. Okay. And so, of course, if you are accredited with BBB of Upstate New York, excuse me, and you want to get started with this app, you could go to bbbplus.app/BUF or use that QR code. I'll take you directly there, and you can request to get set up on it. Somebody on my team is going to help you basically decide which review sites would work for your business and help you with that process. And of course, if you're accredited with a different BBB or you're happen to watch this webinar, you're not accredited and you're interested in accreditation, please contact your local BBB office. Okay. Oh, hold on. Give me 1 second here.
Thank you, Moira. Does anyone have any questions? I know you answered quite a few throughout the presentation, and I appreciate that.
Okay. Let me just show the contact info that I was telling people. So for those of you who had questions in terms of like you had additional things you wanted to talk about that was specific to your business or you had questions about your device key, that's the information. So please email support@thereviewsolution.com. And you can also call our 800 number 888-649-6140. And that'll get you to somebody on my team that'll be able to help you. So, okay, I don't think I see any questions. You see, oh,
I see a comment from Bill Greiner. Bill, thank you very much for joining us. We will definitely have somebody get in touch with you. But thank you for joining, and be sure to let us know if you have any other questions. And I will be following up with an email that will include a link to this presentation as it was recorded, as well as links to sign up for the app. But really quick, while I have you, I just want to share my screen to go over something else. Here is the contact page for our AB team if you have any questions as an accredited business. And again, the link to download the app. Also, I just want to remind everybody about our partnership with Verizon Digital Ready. And you may have seen some emails about this, but it's another really exciting opportunity for our accredited businesses. Through our partnership with Verizon, we're offering free expert training and grant opportunities for small businesses. They're quick courses on a number of different topics. And I know we all appreciate that because everybody's busy, but they are not very lengthy and there's lots of good information on them that I think all small business owners could benefit from. Pricing, marketing, AI are just a few. And the reason I mention this now is that if you sign up and take a course today, you are eligible for a $5,000 grant. So there will be more opportunities like this coming, but I just wanted to take a moment to remind you of that. Please take advantage of these resources, and we've included a QR code there if you wish to sign up. All right, any other questions? Okay, I think that wraps us up. Thank you again, Moira, and thank you to everybody who hopped on the call. Really excited about this and hope everybody takes advantage of it. Again, it is free to you as a BBB accredited business. So thank you, and keep an eye out for an email from me with all those links that I mentioned.
she's saying if I could put the QR code back up, which I will in a minute. There we go.
Sure. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.